Hi, I'm Urvashi. Come cook with me in my kitchen. We are going to make Korean style beef burgers today. We're going to do this in the air fryer. They're going to be so juicy, they're going to be super tender, and cleanup is going to be an absolute breeze. Okay, let's get started with these burgers. The first thing you want to do is go wash your hands very carefully because we are going to get our hands inside all of the food today. So if you haven't done that, pause, go wash your hands. If you were already ready to cook, here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna first marinate this beef. Now here's something that you could do on a weekend, for example, or you could do it in the morning and you come home and you can make the burgers once you come home. So the first thing we're gonna need for this is we're gonna take some scallions, green onions basically, and we can use just the green part, just the white part, both, whatever you prefer. I prefer to do a little bit of both because they do have a slightly different taste. The white ones are a little more pungent, and I think that adds a little something to it. Besides, I don't like throwing away food. So you're gonna chop up these onions and then put that in your bowl. You're gonna chop up some garlic and some ginger. Take the flat of your knife, press down on your garlic clove. It's gonna make peeling it really, really simple. See that? And then chop it as finely as you want. The finer, the more pronounced the garlic flavor is gonna be and the less likely someone is to bite into a hunk of garlic. So just give it a little rough chop here. You know, your kitchen is gonna smell amazing when you make this dish with all these aromatics in there. All right, we got our garlic. The ginger, you do not need to peel. For those of you who can't stand the thought of eating unpeeled ginger, you can use the sharp edge of a spoon to peel it, but you really don't need to. The skin is very pliable. You're not even gonna notice it. Chop up your ginger and mince it finely. If you want, you can use the pre-minced garlic and ginger. No shame in that. I've done that several times when I've been in a hurry. And you're gonna put that in there. Now, I'm going to show you a bunch of other ingredients, some of which you'll be familiar with, some of which you won't be familiar with, and I will talk you through those. The first thing you need to know about is gochujang. It's spelled, starts with a G, but pronounced with a K. So when you're saying this in front of other people, you can sound really sophisticated. It's gochujang. This is a red, fiery looking paste that is not at all fiery. It's got a slight hint of sweetness, a slight hint of smokiness, a very, very savory flavor. And let me tell you, a dollop of this will add flavor like very few things you have in your pantry right now. This is definitely worth getting. If you get this, we also have an air fryer wings recipe that uses the same thing. So you can use it for that. So as we do this, let's go ahead and get a couple of tablespoons of this gochujang in here, okay? The next thing we're going to use is dark soy sauce. What is the difference between dark soy sauce and regular soy sauce? Dark soy sauce is just a little bit sweeter. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Use your regular soy sauce, and you might want to add a touch of sweetener just to offset a little bit of the taste. So let's go ahead and measure that and put that in. We have some sesame oil. I'm using toasted. If you can't find toasted and you just have regular, use regular. It's all good. It's sesame oil. Normally, I use sesame oil as a finishing aid. In this case, I think it really helps to infuse the meat with flavor, so I'll use a little bit of it then. And then, you know, you definitely want a little bit of salt in here, okay? Okay, let me tell you another trick. I love doing 2-for-1 recipes. I hate buying an ingredient for just one recipe. So like I said, you can already use this for the chicken wings. However, everything I showed you, minus the gochujang, so the onions, ginger, garlic, the soy sauce, the sesame oil, and the salt, you could do that with flank steak and you would be making bulgogi beef. So one recipe with just one little substitution and you have 2 variations of it. So I like doing that. Okay. Now that you've got this marinade in place, let's go ahead and put in our ground beef. And you know, a lot of people use a spoon to do the ground beef. Let me tell you, I've tried that and I'll be there here all day because it just never gets mixed up. So you're just gonna have to get your hands in it. And if you're squeamish about that, get those little plastic gloves, the disposable ones, and have at it that way. But it really does infuse flavor a whole lot better if you're willing to get in there. Another trick that works really well for me is to use a Ziploc bag. So I'll put all of this into the Ziploc bag, zip up the bag, and then I can store it in the fridge so that I'm not having to mess with more dishes. And it just kind of holds the flavor as well, and it's easier. You can just squish it from the outside, which is helpful. Okay, sometimes I like to put a little bit of sugar in it or some kind of sweetener. And I do that because I really think it helps offset some of the other spices in there. So I've written the recipe to include sugar, but some people have an issue with like sweet meat. That's not a concept that we're often familiar with. So if you're not sure about that, you could leave it out, but it does add a nice balance to it. So consider adding at least just a tad bit of some kind of sweetener that you prefer. Okay, so here we are. We have everything in here. We're going to make patties, and we have our burger buns on the side here so that we know how big our patty needs to be. I used to make these giant ones, and then they were way too thin and they'd be falling over. It's just not pretty. So just kind of eyeball it and have a look. You don't have to sweat how neat and tidy these are. I mean, unless you have the kind of a fussy family that opens up the bun to see what the patty's like, in which case they're cooking tomorrow, I'm not. So that should do it. It's gonna shrink a little bit, okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to make 4 of these. Then I want you to cover up the bowl. And we're gonna let this marinate for 30 minutes. While it's marinating, we're gonna clean up our section a little bit, and we're gonna come back and make the sauce that goes on it. So just to give you an idea what's gonna happen, this is going to be these bulgogi beef flavored patties, if you will. They've got a little bit of gochujang in it, which makes it not entirely bulgogi, but still delicious. And then we're gonna use many of these same ingredients to make a sauce to go on top. Okay? All right, so you go ahead and make the patties, set it aside, clean up for a little bit, and come back when you're ready. Okay, so while those patties are marinating, let's go ahead and make our sauce. Now you'll see a lot of the same ingredients. I like this because not only does it complement the flavors, it prevents you from having to get 20 different ingredients to make one small sauce. It just drives me nuts when recipes ask you to do that. So the way we're gonna start this one is we are gonna take about 1/4 of a cup of mayonnaise. I know that sounds like a lot, but you're gonna have sauce left over. And it's actually so tasty that you're not gonna care. This sauce actually would be excellent with anything else. Like if you're making chicken tenders the same week, you've got some grilled chicken. If you have any sauce left over, you know, there's a lot of different ways to use this sauce up. So I'm not worried that you're gonna have too much. All right, so 1/4 of a cup of mayonnaise. And then we're gonna rely on our old friend gochujang here again to give us a little pop of flavor and color. It makes a beautiful kind of a coral pink sauce. It's very pretty to look at. I mean, burgers, you know, they're yummy, but they're like little brown pucks. They don't look appetizing necessarily. So the more color you can put into it, you know, the better it is. You eat with your eyes, right? So it's kind of nice to have that. All right, so there's our gochujang. We're gonna use some sesame oil again. Now this time the sesame oil flavor is going to be even more pronounced because you're not cooking it. So it's gonna be that fresh burst of sesame oil on your tongue, which is to die for. And we're gonna put in a couple of teaspoons of sesame seeds. Now, if you have buns with the sesame seeds, you're gonna ask me, do I still need it? You know, I would, just because it lends a really nice, kind of a little bit of a crunch to it, which you don't expect in a sauce. And I do like that. And then, again, our friend the scallion. Hey, you bought a bunch of scallions for this recipe, right? You may as well use all of it. So we are going to chop up a little bit of scallion. You need about 1/4 of a cup or thereabouts. This one you do want to dice fine because it's not getting cooked. So it's getting eaten raw. So cut this as small as you are able to. And this time I might not use the white because it is quite pungent when it's eaten raw. I like to fold the stalks in half because then one cut gives me 2 pieces, and I'm all about efficiency. I should have been like one of those efficiency experts that goes into a place, finds the laziest person who's doing their job and figures out how they're doing it, you know? That's what I always look for, is how can I cut a step out? Okay, here we go. So here's our sauce. Now look, I mean, I'm not even done mixing it, but it's kind of pretty, isn't it? Look at all those ingredients. I like that. You want to get the sauce kind of homogenized and emulsified, and look how pretty that is. It's a gorgeous color. If you find this, you should taste a little bit of it. There's nothing in here that's going to hurt you. It's all cooked stuff. You should taste a little bit of it. If it tastes a little spicier than you want, just add a little mayonnaise. It'll lighten the color, but it's still going to be delicious. So here's the sauce. You saw how I made this? I basically marinated the beef with onions and some aromatics, basically. Then I put in something that had a little bit of a pop of flavor. I put in a nutty, savory something, and I put in seasonings that are traditional with Korean cooking. So yes, this is not a traditional Korean burger. But if you wanted to vary this, what you want to do is you want to think about what flavors go well together. So for example, if you have Greek seasoning, you might, a blended season, you might use that. In that case, in order to provide that savory flavor, you might want to use feta cheese. So what I would do is I would chop up some feta cheese really fine, and I would put that into the meat so that when it cooks, it melts inside, and then I would top it with feta cheese. So again, this is just a guide for how you can make a variety of other recipes with it. All right. So we are now ready to put our burgers in the air fryer. Now, everybody likes their burgers done differently. Some of us like it well done, some of us don't like it well done. The timing I'm giving you is for well done burgers because it's always possible to cut down on time. You can just test it and see. The challenge that some of you with smaller air fryers are going to run into is that you may or may not be able to fit 4 patties in there, okay? It's not that there's not enough depth, it's that there may not be enough surface area. So in that case, what I would advise you is don't cram it in, okay? You're gonna have uncooked parts and cooked parts and it's not pretty. I've tried that. What you want to do in that case is just put 2 patties in, and then when you cook the second batch, cook it for 2 or 3 minutes less because you're not waiting for it to preheat that time, okay? So here are the patties. You're just gonna put them in gently. I'm gonna wash my hands because I just touched the meat, and then we're gonna put them into the air fryer. Okay, there we go, clean hands. Here we go. This is going in. If you've never used an air fryer before, there are really only 2 buttons you need to find, 3 buttons you need to find, 4 buttons you need to find on your air fryer. How to press it on, where the time is, where the temperature is, and how to press the equivalent of play, like how to get it started, okay? So for this, we're doing 350, and we are going to do 10 minutes. So mine just happened to be at 350. Let me take this down to 10 minutes. And press start, and you're good to go. So those burgers are gonna cook for 10 minutes. I'm gonna use that time to clean up my workspace and get everything ready for dinner. So press pause and come back when your burgers are done, and we'll pick up where we left off. Okay, these burgers are done. I would love for you to see these because you're gonna be blown away by how gorgeous they are. Look at those, evenly cooked, just brown and crispy, and they're not swimming in fat, and you're not having to clean up a whole stove top where you had fat splatter on it. Beauty of the air fryer. Find something hot and put it down here, and let's assemble our burger. So, you could sauce the bottom. You could sauce the top, you could sauce all of it, you could do whatever you want because you are the home cook, you get to decide. And then let's find, here we go, let's get a set of tongs and put our little patty on there. And clearly we did a good job when we formed the patties because they fit quite well. That makes me happy. And then you put some on top, on here. And there you go. Here is your burger. Now the test is going to be, are they juicy enough? Because if they're not, I did something wrong. They are juicy. Look at the inside. See all the onions and all the flavors we put in? The patty is seasoned. It's not just the sauce, the meat is seasoned, which makes this just bursting with flavor. So much more than an ordinary burger that hasn't had the meat marinated. You can dress it up any way you like. You can serve anything on the side, chips, roasted shishito peppers, maybe some sliced tomatoes, anything you want can go around your burger. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a good time. I hope you see how easy it is to make delicious, juicy, flavorful burgers in your air fryer with very little fuss or muss.